No. Oh no. Is it my ex? It's them, isn't it? You could see their world freeze, just as yours had when you first spotted them. Their expression shifted from genuine shock to... Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel. I am Espoir du Vite, and today I want to play some more Crimson Hydrangea. Now while it's still in demo form, I think there is still more routes that I could actually go through. And potentially other characters I can meet. What if I pull up my phone and check on my socials? You pull out your phone, and just as you open up your first app to scroll through, a message pops up. It seems as though one of your favorite authors finally announced their next book. Quickly, you press on the link in the message, and it leads you to a post teasing an excerpt. Just as you're about to scroll down to read some of the comments, you hear the office door creak open. Ah, good morning, Espoir, the owner said as she stepped into the room and spotted you by the lockers on your phone. Good morning, Rita, you said automatically as you shut your phone off before putting it in your pocket. Oh yeah, this is when we meet Mr. Belmont and he almost whacks us with a door. Hey! Careful with that door, bro. What if I'm really mean to him? Aw. A tall blonde man stepped inside, glancing over towards you in slight surprise, as if he hadn't expected the door to swing out as far as it did. I'm so sorry. The wind blew the door open. Are you okay? He questioned, concern etched into his handsome features as he carefully shut the door behind him and stepped towards you. No, you slammed the door on my shoulder. I think I need compensation. Lie. A mixed expression crossed his handsome features. However, instead of downright refusing your request, he slowly nodded. I'm sorry. If you'd like, I can go grab an ice pack from the CBS down the street, or some painkillers, he suggested, the concern from earlier back on his features. Crap, you didn't think you would actually fall for it? No, I was thinking of a more monetary kind of compensation. Money, please. His smile faded a bit as his expression became unreadable. Reaching back, he pulled out his leather bifold wallet and pulled out 2 crisp $100 bills. Alright, I'll accept them, but I was still joking. I think this should cover a bruised shoulder, don't you? He questioned with a smile that didn't quite meet his eyes as he leaned forward and offered the money to you. He called my bluff. You paused, looking down at the money. You were half tempted to ask for more to see how much he would actually give you, but you also didn't want to push your luck. I think that should be enough. I'll let you know if I need any more for x-rays, you said with a sarcastic little smile, only to be surprised when the man let out an amused laugh. I'll admit, that was pretty good, he chuckled as he put his wallet away, as his gaze settled on you as you put the cash in your back pocket. Now that you had the chance to get a better look at the tall blonde, you could see how conventionally attractive he was. And loaded. He was the quintessential rich St. Anne's Islander. Like what you see? He smirked confidently, clearly having noticed your prolonged stare. Crap! What? No, she lied. He let out an amused chuckle, his eyes sparkling with affection. Oh no, I'm trying to be mean to him, but that just makes him like me more. You don't have to lie, you know. I know I can be quite the catch, though I do have to admit, I'm certainly enjoying my view. He's too smooth, we can't handle him. The look in his eyes was almost predatory, to put it mildly. Despite yourself, you feel your cheeks grow warm upon hearing his flattering words. Stop! Right, he said he wanted to get back into reading again. Well, we'll see how long that lasts. After all, it wasn't the first time a customer declared their intentions to come back and was never heard from again. It was my pleasure, Thank you for stopping by, Mr. Bell. Garrett, he insisted, his silver eyes staring into yours with a pleasant smile on his lips. Garrett. Thanks for stopping by, Garrett. I hope you have a great rest of your day. You did your best to keep your customer service smile plastered on your face. Thank you, Espoir. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day as well. See you later, gorgeous. Stop! I'm trying to be mean to you, he said with a flirtatious smile as he gave you a final wave before exiting the store. The fact that he knew your name didn't faze you. After all, you were wearing your name tag, and it's not like this was the first time a random customer called you by your name. Overall, he seemed like a nice enough guy. Maybe a little pushy, but nice enough. Oh yeah, what happens if I go home? What happens at my home? Considering the fact that this wasn't the first time you've forgotten your lunch this week, it made sense to try and save a little money and just eat somewhere back home. It wasn't ideal, but hey, maybe this inconvenience was just what you needed to remember your lunch next time. Hopefully. The 15-minute walk was relatively uneventful, though you did see a cute little cocker spaniel on the walk with their owner, so that was kind of nice. Aww. The place you were currently staying at was originally a carriage house that had been renovated to an Airbnb about 10 years ago. It was nestled between some willow trees, effectively hidden away from the main street. Ooh. It also had a small rock path that led from the main house to your front steps. Not that you ever used it, considering you usually used the side gravel path that connected directly to the street. Cute. You unlocked the side door and stepped inside, only to be pleasantly surprised by the smell of something delicious cooking in the kitchen. Is it my roommate? I'm back, you announced your presence as you made your way towards the kitchen. The main living space was small and delightfully nautical. Lisa, the owner, usually rented this place out as an Airbnb, so it was already decorated and move-in ready. Of course, while it might not have been you or your roommate's style, it made it a heck of a lot easier to move into the island. Furniture wasn't cheap, especially if you had to import and ship it via ferries into St. Anne's. Upon hearing the front door open, your roommate's head popped out from the kitchen doorway. Pretty! I hope nothing bad has happened to my roommate. Espoir, what are you doing here? I thought you had work today, she questioned with a raised semi-skeptical brow. Your roommate, Camilla, was honestly one of the best roommates you've ever had. You never had to chase her down for her portion of the rent. She had a pretty chill personality, kept to herself in her mostly soundproofed room, and would even occasionally feed you her incredibly delicious leftovers. Take a wild guess. Don't tell me. You forgot your lunch again. An amused smirk appeared on her lips as she finished drying off the last of the dishes and putting them away. Bingo! I'm starving! Oh, Espoir, what are we gonna do with you? Isn't that the 4th time this week? She laughed with a shake of her head. Sorry. 3rd, but who's counting? You retort with a slightly strained chuckle. Lucky for you, I have some leftovers for lunch, if you're interested. It's that feta tomato pasta dish that went viral a few months ago. Ooh. Score! Camilla had made it a few times in the past, and it was always incredible. Yes, please, how could I ever pass up your cooking? Flatterer. Camilla let out a laugh as she playfully whipped the towel at you, the damp fabric barely brushing against your hip. Honestly, Espoir, if you keep it up, I might just start sharing all of my secrets with you, both cooking and not. A playful little smile appeared on your lips as you moved closer to grab a bowl and start serving yourself some of her leftovers. Hey, I'm not complaining, though who knows if I'll ever actually get to use them while I'm living here. Your leftovers are way better than anything I could ever make. Okay, maybe you were just flattering her a bit. But hey, if a few compliments here and there ensured that you would get a free leftovers, it was the price you were willing to pay. She half scoffed and half laughed as she leaned against the counter to watch you serve yourself a nice hearty bowl of pasta. My offer from before still stands. If you ever want to sell feet pics, I can hook you up. I'm sure you'd be able to make a decent amount of cash with your cute feet. Why are you talking about my feet, Camilla? She teased, carefully watching your reaction to her offer. As tempting as that sounds, I'm going to have to say no, or at least not right now. Now that things are starting to slow down in the winter months, some extra cash wouldn't hurt. Maybe you'd consider it a bit more seriously if things get a bit tighter, budget-wise. Maybe. I'm sure there's no shame in that. Oh, that's better than the heck no from last week. At this rate, we'll have you selling them by the end of the month. She teased before glancing at the clock on the stove. Dang, it's that late already? Oh, before I forget, I was gonna leave a note, but since you're here, I wanted to let you know I'm taking the late shift tonight, so I'll have to get a rain check on our little hangout sesh. Ah, that's right. With everything that had been going on with work recently, you had forgotten about the little hangout you guys had scheduled earlier this week. The original plan was to meet back home after work, slip into some sweats, make a few snacks, have a few drinks, and watch some so bad they're good horror movies, talking over most of them in the process. You had managed to have about one of these hangout sessions a month, but with everything slowing down, you would certainly be free to have these more often if you so desired. Oh. You forgot, didn't you? She hit the nail on the head. Maybe a quick subject change would, distract her? Hey, I conned this really cute blonde guy out of $200 today. I thought you stopped working a late shift. Didn't you say it messed with your streaming schedule? In addition to working part-time at a local CBS, Camilla was an aspiring influencer/streamer. She had about 75,000 followers on most of her social media platforms, and her follower count was rapidly growing. Most of her public content focused on her aesthetic posts about her day-to-day life. Granted, she kept her day job under wraps, but recently she had been making progress on transitioning to streaming full-time and cutting back on her hours at CBS. Yeah, that was until the new guy went missing in action. He isn't picking up his phone, as well as missing all of his shifts. I wouldn't be surprised if he hopped back on the ferry and returned to the mainland once he realized just how cold and depressing St. Anne gets during the colder months. Yeah, I guess it would get extra cold if you're, on an island. She let out a long sigh. This hadn't been the first time one of her coworkers went missing. The summer tends to draw a lot of young hopefuls. However, once the seasons change, the tourists go home, money becomes a bit more scarce, and the cold winds roll in. They quickly find out that they'll need more than hope to stay afloat on this island. Man, that sucks. Hopefully they'll be able to find someone else to cover those shifts. You and me both. Alright, I gotta take a shower and head out. See you tomorrow, Espoir. Okay, I hope you have a decent shift. See you tomorrow, Camilla, you said with a small wave that she returned before slipping into the bathroom, while you glanced at the clock. You had about 20 minutes left to eat something before you had to head back to work. The rest of your lunch was pretty uneventful, and before you knew it, it was time to head back to work. You deposited your plate and utensils in the sink, hurriedly washed them, and stepped out through the front door just as the shower turned off. When you finally returned to the bookstore, you're shocked to find a worn-out-looking Rita leaning against the counter. Aw, maybe not say that she looks like crap. Hey, are you okay? Huh? Oh, you're back. Okay, something must have been seriously wrong, given how out of it she appeared to be. What happened to you, Rita? Swiftly, you make your way behind the counter, just in time to catch her as she leant back and lost her balance. Her thin 5'7" frame fell flush against you for a moment, before she quickly corrected herself. Aww! Crap, sorry, are you okay? She questioned as she pulled back to take a closer look at you, almost as if she was worried that she had harmed you when it was clear she was the one that needed looking after. Oh, Rita. I'm fine, Rita. Why don't you go lay down on the couch? I can take it from here, okay? You offered as you instinctively grabbed her arm, worried that she might topple over at any moment. You could tell that she wanted to fight you on that. However, it seemed as though logic ultimately won, and she gave you a hesitant nod. All right. Thanks, Espoir. I'm going to go lay down on the couch. Just let me know if anything comes up, okay? She relented as she straightened herself out. Now that she appeared to have gotten a grip on herself, she gently placed her hand over yours in a reassuring gesture, telling you to let her go. Lady, if you don't take care of yourself... Suddenly realizing that you had been grabbing your boss's arm this entire time, you immediately let go, your cheeks burning as you took a few steps back, giving her more than enough space to exit the tight counter area. Thanks, Espoir. I don't know what I'd do without you, she said with a surprisingly affectionate smile and gaze that lingered a few moments too long before she finally made her way towards the back room. While you had been out at lunch, it seemed as though most of the pickup orders had been, well, picked up while you were out. The rest of the afternoon went by relatively uneventfully, and before you knew it, it was closing time. You went through the usual routine of straightening everything out before dutifully locking the front door. Okay, what if I leave it as is? That's not gonna come back and haunt me. It'll be fine. After all, it's not like a burglar would break into a small carriage house when there was a giant Victorian right next door. The most expensive thing they would probably make off with was your roommate's PC setup. We don't really want them to do that either, which would suck for Camilla, but ultimately you would get off unscathed. Making a mental note to text Lisa in the morning, you let out a sigh, deciding to spend the rest of your night doing whatever felt right. What if I do nothing? What if I just let nature take its internet course? As much as you loved Morgan and Brattle and their work, you weren't going to white knight for them. You spend a few more moments scrolling through the comments before clicking off and surfing the World Wide Web, or doom-scrolling on TikTok. After a while of scrolling through the web, you eventually fall asleep. You had carelessly left your phone beside you on your bed. A subtle... What? I leave my back door open one time, and a darkened figure stands in the doorway. A subtle creak filled your room as your door slowly opened, revealing a darkened figure standing in the doorway. They took 1, 2, 3, 4 steps until they stood beside you, looming over your unconscious figure. Long, slender fingers reach out for your phone before putting it to charge on your headboard. It was then they took one long, lingering look at your oblivious and vulnerable form. Probably sleeping like Anna from Frozen. A tender expression crossed their features as they bent down and pressed an affectionate kiss to your forehead before gently pulling your sheets up, effectively tucking you in. How dare you give me kisses and I'm not aware of it? Good night, Espoir. Until tomorrow. Aw, man. I don't want to lie to Rita. I don't wanna. Rita, I'm sorry. Let me just save scum first. Rita, I'm only doing this for the gram. I would help you out in any other time, but I'm only doing this for the completionists. Sorry. I already had plans today. Pal World is calling me. There was a brief moment of silence as your words hung in the air. You almost felt guilty about lying. Almost. You've been working your buns off since you moved here, and there was no way you would give up your precious time off to cover for a coworker you barely even knew. Not even for Rita. I would do it for Rita. It's fine. I'll figure something out. Sorry for bothering you on your day off. She sighed. You could almost see her rubbing the bridge of her nose in exhaustion. Or you could just close up for the day. Sorry, we're closed. We only have 3 employees and one of them's sick. Since I won't see you before Friday, I wanted to remind you that we'll be closed this weekend for the storm. We can play Monday by ear, all right? She coughed, pulling the phone away from her mouth to preserve your eardrums. No. Cough directly into my face. I deserve that. It wasn't news to you. After all, she mentioned it a few days ago when you both first heard about the impending hurricane. Yeah, I got it. I hope you feel better soon, Rita, you said half-heartedly. While you didn't necessarily want her to be sick, you also didn't want to put yourself out for her sake. Thanks, Espoir. See ya. She hung up mid-coughing fit, probably accidentally hitting the end call button. Dang. It was hard not to feel bad for her, but ultimately she wasn't your responsibility. She's your boss. She should figure staffing out on her end, regardless of how crappy she was feeling. It wasn't your responsibility to step in at a moment's notice. Yes, that is absolutely true. When it comes down to it, that is true. Letting out a sigh, you sink back into your bed, contemplating falling back asleep or scrolling through your phone. Ultimately, you ended up rotting in bed all morning, only finally deciding to get up when your stomach beckoned you to. Turning your attention to the cabinets, you began rummaging around for something to eat. Unable to find anything appetizing, you turned your attention to the fridge, only to be surprised by a Tupperware container with your name on a sticky note right on top. Oh, is that for my roommate? Curiosity got the better of you, and you pulled out the Tupperware before putting it on the counter and taking a closer look at the sticky note with your name on it, only to find a note written on the back in a neat and rather cute feminine handwriting. Something tells me you forgot your lunch again for the 4th time this week. Dang it, she's never gonna let you live that down, is she? Well, at least this time you could tell her she was wrong, since you technically didn't forget it. You just found it in the fridge. Waiting for you. I thought I'd help you out and generously give you some of my leftovers. You can thank me by taking out the trash. Well, you guessed it was only fair, especially considering that it seemed as though she had had a bunch of leftovers sitting in the fridge with your name all over them. Literally. Tee-hee-hee. Opening the container, you were incredibly touched by the food she had made for you. It was your favorite dish of hers, one that you knew she would have had to make fresh this morning, since it certainly wasn't in the fridge these past few days. Oh, dang, you really owed her. Deciding to eat out of the container, you heated it up and brought it over towards the small dining table before deciding to watch something as you ate. After eating your fill, you cleared your plate, took out the trash, and glanced at your phone. It was 12:33 p.m. If you were being completely honest, a part of you wanted to go out and enjoy some fresh air before it got too cold. Not to mention the impending storm would keep you inside for Lord knows how long. Ugh. Though, after blowing off Rita, the last thing you wanted to do was accidentally run into her downtown. Just the thought made you cringe internally. Just tell her that you're running some errands. Maybe you could just go for a quick walk by the docks. It's been a while since you visited that area of the island, and the thought of people watching and enjoying the scenery seemed appealing. Ooh. So, you decided to finally get ready for the day with a quick shower. Once your hygiene was taken care of, you pulled on some of your warmest clothes before donning your go-to winter jacket. While the current temperature wasn't terrible, you knew from first-hand experience that the ocean breeze would make it feel at least 10 degrees colder than the forecast predicted. Ugh. Ooh. The walk to the docks was pretty uneventful. aside from the stray dog walker or gardener tying down their bushes in preparation for the storm. Ooh, you gotta tie down your bushes? The streets were empty. That wasn't until you arrived at the docks that you saw people milling about. The docks themselves were gorgeous, beautifully maintained, and quite the sight for travelers visiting the island for the very first time. Ooh. There was a reason why St. Anne's was a hot destination, especially for those with higher tax brackets. Now, let me just put my second yacht over here. Settling yourself on one of their surprisingly comfortable white benches, you watched the latest ferry pull in, and watched people slowly pour out from inside the large, luxurious ferry. Well, as luxurious as a ferry could be, anyway. Prior to moving here, you never would have been able to tell the difference between the wealthy and the ultra-wealthy. The difference was subtle, but quite obvious once you knew what to look out for. The regular wealthy liked showing it off. They wore brand-name everything, and the more logos on their items, the better. They typically treated the dock workers like crap and had little patience for anything aside from themselves and their own desires. The ultra-wealthy, on the other hand, were nearly complete opposites. While the clothes they wore might have been considered plain, you could tell they were of high quality. No wrinkles, stains, and the clothes were practically tailored to fit their bodies. Another thing that stood out to you was how they treated the dock workers. Unlike their counterparts, they weren't downright rude or disrespectful. They were blasé towards them. They were polite, but it was clear to you that they didn't really care about them. It was almost like they ultimately knew that they didn't matter in the grand scheme of their overly privileged lives. Granted, it's not like you interacted with either kinds of wealthy people in the bookstore. If you had to count, perhaps only a handful of them entered the store in the past few months that you've worked there. You suspected they typically had better things to do than frequent a small bookstore, or they simply bought their literature digitally. You found your thoughts turned to Garrett, the less wealthy patron to visit the store. Now that you thought about it, if you had to classify him, which category would he fall into? On one hand, he did wear some brand name and designer items, but on the other hand, he seemed so kind and genuine when he spoke to you yesterday. Like he actually cared about your thoughts about the book. Maybe ultra-wealthy, or perhaps he was a regular guy who liked to dress well. No, that couldn't be it. Something about him screamed having been born with a silver spoon in his mouth. Your thoughts immediately halted when you caught sight of a heartbreakingly familiar shade of red exiting the ferry that just arrived. Why did the cool ocean sound stop? No. Oh no. Is it my ex? It couldn't be. It's them, isn't it? There was no fluffing way. Le gasp! Is that him? Is that the Foolio main character? Want me to get him for you? Your heart rate skyrocketed as you were rooted in your seat, watching as your greatest nightmare casually walked down the gangplank with a ridiculous amount of luggage. In all the years you've known them, they've never quite figured out how to pack light. It wasn't until they stepped onto solid ground that they even bothered to look up from their phone, and nearly immediately locked eyes with you. No, they didn't, because I got up from that bench and ran away. You could see their world freeze, just as yours had when you first spotted them. Their expression shifted from genuine shock to... You didn't stick around to find out. Exactly. Aw, were they tearing up? Practically launching yourself off of the cozy little bench you had been so happily sitting in a few moments prior, you ran. Espoir! Wait! They practically screamed, their voice easily crossing the distance between you both and ringing in your ears. I can't hear you. I don't know who you are. La 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 la. Bye! Do you look back? No. Let me save scum. No. Your lungs, legs, and chest burnt as you pushed your body to get as far from your ex as you possibly could. You tasted blood in your mouth, but you kept running. You'll never catch me with all your goofy luggage. You manage to escape the docks and take a sharp right, only to crash into someone, nearly knocking you both to the ground. Somehow, the person you crashed into managed to keep their balance and tightly grab you as you practically collapsed against them. You did your best to catch your breath and apologize, but you couldn't. Why couldn't you breathe? Why couldn't you get enough air into your lungs? Why did you taste blood? Why were the waves getting louder and louder in your ears? What was... You were hyperventilating, and pretty badly, too. Garrett! Espoir? Espoir, what's wrong? What happened? Garrett's startled voice broke through the restless waves of blood pounding in your ears. He held you tightly, keeping you upright as you tried and failed to get a hold of yourself. Sorry, I just saw the object of my nightmares. Please, take a breath, Espoir, he pleaded softly as he carefully got to his knees, gently guiding you down with him as he held you in his arms, trying to make sure you wouldn't pass out and hit the floor. His presence, as unexpected as it might have been, comforted you somehow. You were still hyperventilating, but you could feel your vision, that was once starting to fade, slowly come back, as you focused on the warm embrace he offered you. There you go. In and out. In and out. He whispered as he gently rubbed your back, helping you come down from your panic attack. It wasn't until your breathing finally calmed down that you actually realized that you both were kneeling on the ground. Pulling away, you looked up at him, beyond mortified by what just happened. Come on, Garrett, I was trying to resist your charms in this playthrough. How are you going to do something like that? I'm so sorry. You were interrupted by Garrett, offering you a sad, understanding smile and shaking his head. I was just thinking it would be hilarious if the MC went, Garrett, oh, Garrett, I'm so distraught. $200 more would help. Don't apologize. Please, just tell me what happened. I've never seen you react like that before. He questioned, his concern overflowing as he looked down at you, his gloved hand still gently wrapped around your forearm and wrist. Do you tell him? Let's see, we ran away from our ex, so no ex today. Yes, we will tell him. You hesitated, wondering if you could really trust him with the truth. Sensing your hesitation, he couldn't help but insist. Espoir, come on, tell me. Maybe I can help. He offered as he gently squeezed his grip on your arms in an attempt to coax it out of you. I saw my ex, you whispered, shame and embarrassment flooding you. You must have looked like an absolute idiot to him, getting so worked up simply because you saw your ex. However, when you glanced up at him, his expression wasn't one of judgment or amusement. Instead, he calmly held your gaze, silently urging you to continue. Taking a shaky breath, you continued, feeling a little reassured by his reaction thus far. We had a really, really bad breakup. They're kind of the reason why I came here in the first place. You didn't really want to go into much more detail. Just the thought of it was already making your heart beat uncomfortably in your chest. Perhaps sensing that you were on the verge of another panic attack, he decided to let it go, for now. Garrett's like, tell me all about this ex of yours. Give me their exact location and description. For reasons. If you'd like, I can take care of them for you. Just say the word and I'll make sure they'll be off the island in the next 10 minutes. Garrett, what do you mean by this? He suggested, with a faint smile as he gingerly rubbed your arm. Tell me, should I make them go by ferry, or should I toss them on one of the trash barges? He suggested, trying to make you laugh. Aww. Though something in his eyes made you feel as though he really would do it if you asked it of him. You totally would, wouldn't you? Wouldn't you, Mr. Belmont? Since St. Anne's was such a small island, there wasn't exactly a lot of space for landfills. That, coupled with the kinds of tourists and residents that visited, made it nearly impossible to recycle and substantially deal with the copious amounts of trash produced during the summer months. Ooh. Instead, they would ship out all of their trash on a barge to the mainland 3 times a week. Ooh, boy. Admittedly, the thought of Tegan having to take the trash barge back to the mainland made you smile, giving Garrett just what he was looking for. An opening. Uh-oh. No, Garrett, no, my heart's wide open. Hey, Espoir, you know, my house isn't far from here. Why don't we warm ourselves up there instead of freezing on the side of the road? I have a batch of hot cider ready for occasions just like these. Garret Belmont, how did you know my weakness of hot cider? He suggested, as he released your arms and stood up before holding his hand out to take yours. While his words seemed innocent upon first hearing them, there was a devilish glint in his eyes, almost as if he had something more than a hot cup of cider in mind. Garrett? Mr. Belmont, what would people say? Take his hand? Shoot. Okay, sure. You got me. You got me at hot cider. Yes, I take his hand. You hope you don't regret this. You take his gloved hand in yours, and he easily helps you up. Flashing you a dazzling smile, you nearly forgot about his initial question until he brought it up once more. So, what do you think? Do you go to his house? Well, we're in it for the long haul, so yeah, sure. Why the heck not? It's not as if you were in the right mental state to be alone right now, and the thought of returning to an empty home was the last thing you wanted to do. Besides, perhaps this was just the thing you needed to finally get over your recurring nightmare of an ex. Sure. Remember, peoples, no matter how hot the stranger is, maybe don't go to their home. Maybe don't let them take you to a second location. But this is fictional, so it's okay. Garrett seemed pleasantly surprised when you took him up on his offer. Really? That's great, Espoir. It would be my pleasure to have you over. He beamed as he pushed his hair back before allowing it to fall perfectly in place. Dang, how did he manage to train his hair to do that? My home isn't too far from here. Come, let's hurry up before either of us catches a cold. He teased just as another bitingly cold breeze blew through you both. Lead the way, you say with a faint smile, touched by how excited he seemed to be to have you come over. It almost reminded you of a kid bringing their friend over to their home for the first time. Aww. It took about 10 or so minutes before you two arrived at the front steps of Garrett's surprisingly familiar home. It was the very home you admired and walked by every single day to get to work. Thank God you've always restrained yourself from plucking the gorgeous flowers that spilled over the white picket fence. Otherwise, the guilt would have eaten you alive, and you'd never been able to look him in the eye again. Home sweet home. Please, after you, he said with a grin as he opened the latch on the front gate and gestured towards the adorable little stone path leading to the front porch and therefore the front door. Thanks, you said with a small smile before stepping forward, surprised by just how immaculately pristine the front garden was. It was clear that he took great care to keep his home looking pristine, either by his own hand or paying others to do it for him. Oh yeah, we didn't run into him gardening this time. Speaking of which, it was clear Garrett came from money. Otherwise, there was no way anyone close to his age could afford to own such a large and beautiful home in this neighborhood on St. Anne's. I wonder if that is a bit of suspicion. Shutting the gate behind you, he swiftly caught up and made sure you got up the stairs all right before stepping ahead and unlocking the door with some sort of PIN code. Interesting. It looked like he had some fancy doorknob that unlocked when you typed in the correct numbers. Not wanting to be rude, you averted your eyes as he punched in the 4-digit code before the door unlocked with a cheerful little jingle. Cute. There we go. Coming inside. The heat should be on. Oh, and please feel free to hang up your jacket on a rack, he said as he held the door open for you, allowing you to step inside and warm up first. The main foyer was absolutely gorgeous. The floors were a stunning black and white penny tile. There was a beautiful staircase that curved up and towards the left, and the decor was classy, luxurious, and practically spotless. Oh wow, your place is amazing, you managed to say as you step into the foyer a little further, giving him a bit more space to close the door. You're too kind. Thank you. This was actually my parents' home growing up, he commented smoothly as he closed the door behind him, the door and security alarm beeping to confirm that it was closed securely. Really? Your eyes drifted back towards his pretty gray-blue ones. Where did they move to? Don't tell me they retired in Florida. You teased as you followed his lead, sliding off your jacket before hanging it onto one of the available coat hooks near the door. Garrett's expression seemed to stiffen for a moment before he offered you a strained smile. Oh yeah, the MC doesn't know that his mom is no longer with us. I'm sure they would have liked that if given the chance. But no, they actually passed away several years ago. Your heart dropped. Oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't know. You genuinely apologize, not knowing how else to react in this situation. God, you felt like the biggest a-hole there was. How are you supposed to know they were dead? Garrett couldn't help but chuckle, finding your troubled expression adorable. He shook his head and ruffled your hair affectionately. Don't worry about it. It's not a big deal, really. It's been over a decade since they both died. The world has moved on, and so have I. A decade ago? He must have been his late teens or early 20s. That might be true, but they were still your parents. I'm sorry you lost them both at such a young age. What happened? His expression softened upon hearing your words. You're incredibly kind. You know that? Huh? Where did that come from? Of course, you're relieved he wasn't upset with you, but it's not like you did anything to warrant that compliment. However, before you had a chance to question him about it, he turned his attention towards the hallway. Come now, I think we both need a steaming mug of cider. Now you're speaking my language! You watched his broad back grow smaller as he traveled down the immaculately maintained and spacious hallway. So are you here all alone? Oh, you poor millionaire. Just crying to a handful of 20s and so lonely. It was then you slowly realized just how lonely he must have been since his parents passed. You felt your heart breaking for him at the thought. Espoir? He questioned as he turned back with a tilt of his head, realizing you hadn't moved from your spot. Are you all right? Oh, yes. Sorry, I just spaced. You apologized before quickly catching up to him. At the end of the hallway, you could see a beautifully renovated kitchen. It was massive, with white cabinets from floor to ceiling, and even had a large marble island in the middle with a vase filled with freshly cut crimson hydrangeas. Ooh, that's so pretty. There was also a beautiful French bay window in the center, overlooking the backyard that appeared to have another garden, and even an in-ground pool that had already been covered up for the winter. Wow, your kitchen is practically 3 times the size of my living room, you commented in surprise as you took in the luxurious surroundings. You might not have known much about renovation costs or appliances, but even you could tell everything was expensive. Garrett laughed and shook his head. He turned up the heat of a slow cooker he had in the corner of the kitchen, and the once subtle smell of hot cider slowly started growing stronger. God, did it smell delicious. Man, why's it gotta be summer? I want some cider. You flatter me, Espoir. Why don't you take a seat while we wait for it to heat up? He suggested, gesturing towards one of the bar stools across the island from where he stood. Nodding, you sit where he suggested, and you could see his expression become affectionate. Suddenly feeling nervous about having his eyes on you, you said the first thing that came to mind. Do you like Pokemon cards? Oh, did you pick these flowers from the garden outside? They're absolutely gorgeous. You gesture towards the vase between you both. His eyes shifted towards them for a brief moment, before he nodded and turned his attention to you once more. Ah, yes. I try to switch these flowers out every couple of days. Hydrangeas don't have a particularly long lifespan once they've been cut, even less when they're not taken care of properly. His words seemed to have an underlying meaning to them that you just couldn't make out. I see. You paused for a moment before continuing. You know, I've never seen red hydrangeas before moving to St. Anne's. Are they native to the island? Garrett chuckled and shook his head before standing up straight once more. No, actually that's a common misconception that most mainlanders make. Hydrangeas are unique in the sense that they actually get their colors from the soil. Generally speaking, acidic soil creates blue or lavender blooms, while alkaline soil creates pinks and reds. Of course, there are a variety of purples in between, but once you have a bit of experience growing them, you can easily manipulate the blooms to be whatever color you'd prefer. The soil in St. Anne's just happens to run a bit more alkaline than most. He explained casually as he kept his gaze on you. Oh, wow. I had no idea. How long have you been into gardening? You questioned, genuinely curious about his hobby. As shallow as it might have sounded, you would have never pegged him for a talented gardener. His smile fell for a moment before it swiftly returned, notably a bit more forced than it was before. My mother introduced me to it when I was a child, and it's stuck with me ever since. Fluff! Talk about putting your foot in your fluffin' mouth again! Stop accidentally bringing up his dead parents, me! You nodded, guilt eating away at you as you considered your next words carefully. I see. Well, I would like to think that she's proud of what you've done with the garden. It really looks like one of those homes you'd find in front of a gardening magazine. You complimented, hoping that it'd smooth things over. Garrett couldn't help but laugh and flash you a dimpled and adoring smile. You really are wonderful. You know that? Aw, you're laying it on kind of thick, sir. You have no idea what you just did to deserve such praise, but hey, you'll take it. It was almost as if the slow cooker felt as though you'd suffered enough. It beeped, indicating that it had warmed up to the appropriate temperature. Ah, there we go. Would you like a cinnamon stick in yours? I never thought of doing that. Putting your own cinnamon into your hot cider. He questioned as he pushed himself off of the island and went over to the slow cooker to serve you both some of the cider. Oh, whatever's easiest, you answered before thinking, just wanting to down the mug and leave before you said anything else that could possibly make him feel any worse. Family topics were officially off the table, at least for now. All right, 2 cinnamon sticks it is, he said cheerfully, before he walked over with 2 steaming hot mugs in his hand. He carefully placed yours on the counter before sitting beside you, far closer to you now than he had been before. Cheers? He questioned, holding his mug out expectantly. Oh, yes, cheers, you said with a smile as you picked up the mug and clinked it against his, only for the worst possible thing to happen. Oh no, did I spill it and bring it all over myself? Gosh dang it! With your hand gripping the handle, you watched as your mug unexpectedly shatter upon impact. The scalding hot cider spilled out onto your hand, wrist, and the countertop beneath you. Garrett? Garrett? Mr. Belmont? Or is it Belmont? I've been calling him Belmont. Is it actually French and it's Belmont? Don't distract me with your last name. Why are you making that face? The shock of the hot liquid shot you out of your seat as your instincts screamed at you to immediately stand up. Amidst the pure chaos, you moved a step away from the hot mess to check your hands and arms. The heat of the cider had left the skin on your right hand and arm throbbing and red. Owie! However, as you stepped away from the countertop to adjust, you failed to notice the piece of broken ceramic that had fallen onto the floor. Oh. The center of your left shoe came down hard on the broken piece of ceramic, causing you to lose your balance and send you falling to the soaked floor. Ouch! Oh no! Did you fall on hot cider for me? At the end of this catastrophic failure, you found yourself on top of Garrett. Both of you were drenched in the sticky liquid. It was hot, but fortunately not enough to severely burn skin. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. Are you all right? You apologized profusely as you tried to scramble off of him to check the damage, mortified by your carelessness. God, just the thought of drenching the kind-hearted man in scalding cider was enough to make you sick. He doesn't seem to mind, main character. However, before you had a chance to get off of him, he tightly grabbed your arms, keeping you in place. I'm fine. Are you all right? While his question sounded innocent enough, the tone in which he asked it sounded anything but. Oh no, why you got little hearts in your eyes? His voice was sweet and thick, with something far more sinful than hot cider. Garrett? Monsieur Belmont? Am I going to have to move part of this video to my adult Patreon? His stormy eyes flickered between respectfully looking up and into your eyes, and rather disrespectfully taking in your intoxicatingly drenched form. Oh no, we're all sticky. We'll have to take our clothes off and get washed up. Oh no, you didn't plan this. You didn't give me a half-broken mug, did you, Garrett? Is this all part of your plan? The once hot cider on your skin suddenly felt cold as your own body temperature started heating up underneath his intense gaze. There was an undeniable tension in the air between you two as you felt his grip on your arms loosen. However, instead of completely releasing you, his hands slowly started making their way towards your hips that were firmly planted against... Oh no, that bulge in his pants wasn't there earlier, was it? Monsieur Belmont! What do you do?
Oh my God!
Oh dear. Well, I guess half of this episode is going to go on my adult Patreon. Why, Mr. Belmont, surely what we're about to do cannot be seen upon this YouTube channel. How dare you? It was then the irritating sound of a phone buzzing filled the otherwise quiet kitchen. It wasn't just any phone. It was yours, and it was buzzing right in your pants back pocket. Fluffing hex! Really? Who the fluff was calling you now, of all times? You mentally cursed your horrible luck as you squirmed underneath Garrett, uncomfortable having the buzzing phone dig into your back. Garrett, please give me a second, you pleaded as you struggled against his grip on your wrist. You could feel the tension in his body as he stilled, probably contemplating on actually doing as you requested, before ultimately releasing you and slowly backing off, We can finish this later. I just gotta yell at whoever's trying to call me right now. His expression was dark, almost murderous, clearly livid by the inopportune interruption. Room bay. You shot him an apologetic look before pulling out your phone and checking to see the caller ID. It was Camilla. Crap. Sorry, I have to take this. You apologized before scooting back on the floor and answering the call. Hey, what's up? Hey, are you okay? You sound out of breath. I'm fine. What's up? You repeated, unable to hide your slight frustration as you glanced at Garrett, who had begun cleaning up the mess you two had been rolling around in. Did you break the kitchen door? I was taking out the trash and it's not locking right. Crap, that's right. You forgot to mention that to her or to Lisa. Oh, yeah. I mean, I didn't break it, but I noticed it was broken last night. I meant to tell you this morning and I forgot. Gotcha. Well, I told Lisa, and she said she's sending someone over to fix it now. I just wanted to let you know that it was broken in case you tried to come in that way. Thanks, Camilla. I'll make sure to use the front door, all right? Sounds good. Do you want me to leave out some food for you when you get back? No, I'm all right. Thanks, Camilla. Suit yourself. See you later, Espoir. Bye. You clicked the end call button before looking up at Garrett. He had already begun picking up the broken mug pieces and was wiping down the floor. From the expression on his face, it was pretty clear that the moment had passed. Oh, listen, Garrett, listen. You leave my roommate alone. You leave my roommate out of this. Wait, let me help, you offered, moving towards him only to pause when he held his hand up and offered you a forced smile. Don't worry about it. What kind of host would I be if I had my guest wipe my floors? It was then you remembered your current state of undress and went to pick up your wet shirt, only for Garrett to shoot you an incredulous look when he saw you pulling it back on. There's no way I'm letting you wear that out. You'll catch a cold within seconds, even with your coat over it. Come, I'll lend you something else to wear. He offered with a smile as he stood up and tossed the wet rags into the sink. It was then he held his hand out to help you to your feet. He then led you down a different hall that you had originally entered from. Opening a door, he ushered you into a cute little nautically themed guest bedroom that had a clean bathroom connected to it. Aww. While you took in the decor, Garrett went straight to one of the dresser drawers across the room and pulled out a crimson crew-neck sweatshirt that had a few dainty white flowers embellished on the front. Oddly enough, it looked pretty new and seemed to be just your size. Why, Mr. Belmont. If you'd like, feel free to take a shower and change into this. You can leave your shirt in the sink and I'll toss it into the washer later. It'll be in the kitchen when you're ready. And with that, he stepped out without letting you get a word in edgewise. Stop! You didn't want to be rude, and you definitely didn't want to walk home in a wet and sticky shirt, so you didn't really have much of a choice regarding wearing the sweater. Do you take a shower? Why is that a choice? Why is that a choice? Let's take a shower. That would be nice to take a shower. It's not like you wanted to get his sweater immediately dirty with your sticky body, and the bathroom did look really clean, so what was the harm? Fortunately, Garrett kept his guest bathroom well stocked with high-end essentials. I'm gonna use your fanciest shampoo, most of which you had never seen or even heard of, but from the smell and how soft and clean they left you feeling, you could tell that they were expensive. Once you finished taking your incredibly relaxing shower, you used one of the fluffiest towels you've ever felt to dry yourself off, and changed back into your mostly dry clothes, sans your shirt, of course. You were surprised to see just how soft the crew neck was. Holy crap, did it feel good on your skin. Once you were fully dressed, you exited the room and found Garrett standing in the kitchen. It seemed as though he had taken a quick shower of his own and had pulled on a similar shirt to one he had worn before. He also had 2 freshly poured mugs on the counter, ready for you to try some. And I still get some cider? You didn't get to try some the first time around, so I thought I'd give you another chance. He chuckled, looking beyond pleased that you were wearing the sweater he had given you. Letting out a chuckle, you nodded, almost surprised he trusted you with another one of his mugs after what happened. Hey, that wasn't my fault. That's really sweet of you, Garrett. I promise I won't break it this time. Or, at least, I hope not. You laughed, unable to keep the slight nervousness from your voice as you gingerly picked up the mug. You were terrified it would shatter if you breathed on it wrong. Garrett chuckled, finding your apprehension undeniably adorable. Taking a sip, you were surprised by just how delicious it tasted, especially with the cinnamon stick added to it. I am totally going to try that. It's delicious. Thank you for pouring me another cup. Speaking of which, let me know how much those mugs cost and I can pay you back for them, you offered, praying that they weren't too expensive. Please, don't worry about it, Espoir. Accidents happen. Even accidents that I suspect were probably planned. Garrett, please, I really want to make it up to you. You've been nothing but kind, and all I've done is break your mugs, make a mess in the kitchen, and borrow your clothes. Please, let me pay for them. You practically begged, the guilt eating away at you. Garrett looked thoughtful as he placed his hand on his chin before he flashed you a dazzling smile. Don't tell a man like that you'll do anything. Okay. How about this? You can make it up to me by going on a date with me tomorrow. Done. Wait, what? Seriously? He wanted to take you out on a date, despite all of the damage you did? Either there was something really wrong with him, or he really, really liked you. Unable to deny him, you nodded. If that's what you want, then I'd love to go on a date with you, you say with a small smile, admittedly flattered that he was still interested in you despite everything. Oh, so you don't remember me conning you out of $200? And who knows what tomorrow would lead to? A warm expression crossed his features as he looked over at you fondly. Wonderful. Before I forget, why don't we exchange numbers? He suggested as he reached into his back pocket and pulled out his phone, which just so happened to be the newest and most expensive X phone on the market. Not that it really mattered to you. It was just another example of how surreal this all felt. You both exchanged numbers, and you caught a glimpse of the time right as you were putting your phone away. It was starting to get late, and the last thing you wanted to do was to walk home in the dark, especially now that you knew a certain someone was on the island. Oh yeah, I almost forgot about my horrible ex. Your stomach twisted uncomfortably at the thought, only for Garrett's ever-watching eyes to pick up on the subtle shift in your demeanor. Are you all right? He questioned, tentatively, anxiety knotting his brows as he carefully watched your reaction. Trying to push those unpleasant thoughts from your mind, you offered him a forced smile. It's getting late, and I want to get home before it gets dark, you explained as you put your phone back into your pocket before you glanced around to make sure you had everything you needed. Of course, he agreed absent-mindedly as he glanced out the kitchen window, taking note that it was nearly sunset. Why don't you let me walk you home? He helpfully suggested as he turned his gaze towards you once more. As questionable as the decision might have seemed to most, you couldn't help but agree. It was either let the sweet, kind, and thoughtful Garrett walk you home, or be terrified of running into your ex on the trip home, even as unlikely as it might have seemed. Yeah, no, you weren't willing to take the risk. You were walking home with Garrett. Only if you don't mind. You prayed that he wouldn't. Of course not. What kind of man would I be if I let you go home by yourself at night? He flashed you a playful little grin as he affectionately poked your cheek, seemingly becoming a lot more comfortable with you after, well, what almost happened. Tee-hee! All right. Thanks, Garrett. I really do appreciate it. Please, don't mention it. Now come on, let's get our coats on and head out before it gets too cold. The walk back to your place was quick. The evening chill had set in, and you found yourself walking a bit faster than usual as a result. Granted, it was hard to tell if it was the cold air or the gnawing fear at the back of your mind that propelled you to move faster. Thankfully, Garrett easily matched your pace and managed to keep an upbeat conversation going the entire time. He mentioned having finished off the book you recommended him, something you found hard to believe, but the more he spoke about it, it was clear that he accomplished what took you several days over the span of one night. When you finally arrived at your place, you turned towards him. Thank you so much for everything, Garrett. Seriously. Thank you so much for everything, Garrett. Seriously. It was difficult to express just how thankful you were that he had been there for you in the midst of your panic attack, and, well, everything else that followed afterwards. Of course, Espoir. I would do it all again in a heartbeat. You're an incredible person, and you deserve to have someone look out for you once in your life. "Aww," he said with an affectionate smile. You really know how to make someone feel special, you mumble, your cheeks heating up as a cold breeze blew through you both and reminds you of the time. Still, I appreciate it all the same. I'll see you tomorrow, Garrett, you say with a shy smile, before briskly making your way down the gravel path to the guest house you've come to call home. Good night, Espoir. I'll see you tomorrow. If you had bothered to turn around at that moment, you would have seen Garrett standing, rooted in the same spot. His gaze didn't stray from your figure as you moved further and further away. It wasn't until you turned to the left behind a hedge that he finally stepped back and headed home, an excited smile tugging at his lips all the while. Aww. Unbeknownst to you both, across the street, behind a beautifully manicured tree, was a crimson-haired person, quietly seething as they witnessed the sweet exchange between the two of you. Oof, you jelly! You jelly guy! Deciding to have a low-key evening, you grab some snacks you had hidden away in the cabinet and retreat to your room. As much as you loved Camilla, you weren't in a talkative mood after the eventful day you just had. Yeah, almost getting banged if she hadn't called. Silence fills the room as you stare up at the bottom bunk from your spot in bed. Why did they come here, of all places? They hate the cold, they hate small towns, and most of all, they hate you. They made that abundantly clear the last time you two spoke. Well, more like they screamed at you. Yeah, didn't the MC mention that their ex said something like, "You don't deserve to be happy"? What kind of bananas is that? They had embarrassed you in front of all of your coworkers and friends. Scratch that. Their friends. That much was obvious when they all took Tegan's side and turned on you after the breakup, blaming you for what happened. Why was everything always your fault? You didn't do anything. They were the one that humiliated you at the stupid event. You told them you didn't want to go. You told them that you had a crappy day at work and just wanted to stay home for once instead of following them around like the pathetic love-struck puppy you were. Instead, they tricked you, saying that they forgot an important piece of equipment that they couldn't do without, forcing you to go to the stupid event where a fluffing stranger spilled a nasty cocktail all over your clothes. Tears stung your eyes as you felt the familiar heat of embarrassment course through your cheeks as you recalled the worst day of your life.